I was Andy Usher, but Rico from StreetScores. I am recording this at 4 a.m. and I'm hoping by the time this gets to y'all, maybe sometime like late evening, it's not a whole bunch of other news that comes out that makes this report look crazy or anything like that. But in this video, I want to talk about how the Commanders re-signed a few pivotal players to the team. We re-signed a super underrated corner. He's going to be the guy that we probably talk about the most throughout this entire video. We also re-signed a versatile offensive lineman that also, you know, catches touchdowns. And we also re-signed a Pro Bowl linebacker slash special teamer. And I also want to dive into all of the remaining Washington free agents that are out there that are from the 2024 team that are not re-signed yet, or maybe never will be re-signed to this 2025 team. And I want to talk about the one that's the highest priority, but maybe a couple of other priorities are in there as well. And you also know that this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we get into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. I'm hitting y'all with constant content. Again, y'all see, I'm on like a 3 video a day type of thing. Even if I know the day before that I'm gonna be busy all day, I'm gonna have nights like these where I'm recording back to back videos late night, early morning, and then I'll paste them and release them, you know, a few hours apart type of thing. That's what I'm doing today / tomorrow, as in March 14th. So make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Make sure you pull up for every video, hit that bell next to the subscription button to make sure you get notified for every single one of these videos. Because even when the Commanders have a down day, which I'm kind of hoping they have March 14th, because I want to get these videos out, but hey man, even when they have a down day, trust me, I have a bunch of content to catch up on. And without further ado, let's go dive into the video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with Igbinoghene. Well, the Commanders re-signed cornerback Igbinoghene to a 1-year deal. Even Ian Rappaport tweeted about it. At Rap Sheet, the Commanders are re-signing cornerback Igbinoghene, source said, as he returns after starting 10 games last season. And anytime you can return a guy that started 10 games for you in a previous season, no matter how cheap they are, no matter how much you expect them to be a part of the team the next season, whether he never starts a game next year or not or whatever, I still think that's a pretty good re-signing right there. That's quality. And so John Comm even tweeted, Washington has re-signed veteran corner Igbinoghene to a 1-year deal per source. He helped the Commanders with his coverage as a slot corner once Mike Sainristil moved outside. Igbinoghene, a first-round pick by Miami in 2020. A lot of people forget that. Igbinoghene was a first-round pick just as recently as the COVID year. He started 10 games for Washington in 2024. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that this guy started 10 games for us last year. And like through all of the ugly in the secondary with Benjamin St-Juste and Michael Davis, this guy was one of the more consistent guys on the entire team. You even have Benjamin Solik, who works for ESPN, not a Commanders fan, not a Commanders reporter or nothing like that. And even he noticed this and took note of it and quote tweeted it by saying, was interested to see the market for Igbinoghene, who I thought was a perfectly solid slot corner last season. Back in Washington is interesting. They were apparently in on DJ Reed, which is the video already. I think that's already technically out by now by the time y'all are seeing this one, which would have moved Sainristil to the slot, I can imagine, but we'll see from here on out where Igbinoghene basically fits into the equation. Then shouts out to Mark Bullock. He said, was a good piece on the secondary last year, versatile, can play both inside and outside. Nice to have that as a depth piece. And I agree, man, for a guy that had 10 starts last year, for him to be like a backup for you going into 2025, first of all, that shows you that your secondary has in fact improved. The fact that a guy like that will, I think, be a definitive backup this upcoming season, but we're going to dive into some scenarios to where he may fit in with what we currently have, especially after the fact that we already signed Jonathan Jones to the roster. Maybe we'll get somebody in the draft. We're going to play around with that, like some potential starting defensive back and cornerback groups very soon. But I first want to point out that, first of all, shouts out to Bill in Bangkok over there at Hogshaven for, you know, just going through the history of Igbinoghene. Because the Washington Commanders cornerback group was bolstered a year ago by the signing of then free agent Igbinoghene, who had mostly been a disappointment in his first 4 seasons in the NFL after being drafted 30th overall by the Dolphins in 2020, but struggling through 3 years before the Dolphins cut him loose. Igbinoghene spent his 2023 season in Dallas, and Dan Quinn must have seen something he liked because he brought the young cornerback with him to Washington last year. A good foresight by Dan Quinn because he ended up being a good player. We're going to dive into some advanced stats that actually places Noah Igbinoghene amongst one of the best corners in the entire NFL. Trust me, you'll want to stay for that. We have charts and everything. You'll be able to see it. And in the 3 of the first 4 games last season, Igbinoghene played 33 snaps or less, but his star shined more brightly as Emmanuel Forbes' star began to fade. When Mike Sainristil replaced Forbes full-time on the outside, Igbinoghene stepped up to a full-time starting slot corner role. When Marshall Lattimore was acquired in trade and was healthy enough to play in the latter half of the 2024 season, it was Benjamin St. Juste who lost playing time, not Noah Igbinoghene. He continued to start for us and play a lot of snaps even if he didn't technically start. And if y'all have been keeping up with my videos for the past few days, like all week, I've been mentioning and asking, can we please make sure we bring him back to be a part of our defensive back depth and rotation? So y'all already know I'm super happy about this re-signing. I'm probably one of the happiest and biggest Noah Igbinoghene fans in the Commanders fan base, man. I'm pretty excited the fact that we were able to bring him back. I almost thought for sure another team would try to steal him away and have him start for them. Now he's coming back to potentially be a backup here where, again, I feel like he's one of the better slot corners in the NFL. There's another NFL team out there that could use him as a starter that would give him probably not only more money, but more opportunities and more snaps to play in their defense. So the fact that he came back has to be a testament to the culture that we've built and his trust in the Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. defensive coaching staff and the chance of winning the Super Bowl potentially with Jaden Daniels as your quarterback. I'm pretty sure it's a mix of all of that. And I could also argue that we still may need a certified upgrade over Jonathan Jones as far as starting outside corner opposite of Marshall Lattimore goes. But then again, at the very least, and I know it's not saying much, but this cornerback group is at the very least better than it was last year. And we still have a draft to get a potentially really talented corner in with some starting potential to that guy. And if that rookie ends up starting, especially early in the season, like week 1 or something, then you know, based off of the talent that we already have, the floor that we have in the cornerback group, especially with bringing in Jonathan Jones and re-signing Noah Igbinoghene, then you know that that rookie truly earned that starting spot. And it's not just because he was drafted at a certain point in the draft. You know how that gets political. We drafted him in the first round, so we got to throw him out there and force him to play. No, because we saw with the fact that even though we drafted Luke McCaffrey in the 3rd round last year, we gave him plenty of opportunities early in the season, and after a point, we're like, we're trying to win. And you being on the field does not necessarily give us the best chance of winning, so you're going to have to take a major back seat. So I trust this organization that that's just how they're going to do things. They're going to draft guys 1st, 2nd round or whatever. If they're not ready to start, then they're not going to start. I trust this team to not do what Ron Rivera did and force guys to start even when they necessarily shouldn't. So my point is, that's why bringing back Noah Igbinoghene and signing Jonathan Jones as a free agent corner at the very least is like a solid idea, just off of the fact that if we do bring in a more talented rookie with a higher ceiling, if that guy's starting by week 1, you know he really can play. Like, this organization has shown that they're not going to start you unless you deserve to start, no matter what the situation is, man. And so, hey, man, I'm pretty sure that this staff is okay with potentially having to start Jonathan Jones opposite of Marshall Lattimore if they have to. That rookie, again, will only start if he's earned it. Or I could also see them just saying, well, run that starting corner rotation from last year right back that we had towards the end of the season with Marshall Lattimore and Sainristil as your outside corners, and then Noah Igbinoghene as your starting slot corner. And then that would have Jonathan Jones as your rotational guy that can play both outside or slot corner when a guy is injured or as part of the rotation, when a guy needs a breather, or if we're having multiple corners on the field, dime packages and things like that. And I know that that may not be necessarily ideal to a lot of y'all, but Noah Igbinoghene is better than y'all think. I don't think y'all understand how great his advanced stats looked last year. I mean, first of all, and we're going to get to that very soon, but I first want to talk about that. Like right now, our defensive back group, I'm not going to lie, at the very least, it has a pretty good floor. And again, at the very least, it's better than what we had last year, because you're starting corners right now, or at least your cornerback group consists of Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sanderstill. You just brought back Noah Igbinoghene. You signed Jonathan Jones. And then, I mean, you also even have guys like Quan Martin who can play slot corner, but more than likely going to utilize them as a strong safety or a free safety. And then you can also throw like special teams guys in there like Tyler Owens and Jeremy Reeves, but you also have Percy Butler, and you signed Will Harris. That's a solid defensive back group, especially if our front seven can play very well and can get after the quarterback and things like that. That is a pretty solid defensive back group. That's one of the better defensive back groups in the NFL. It's not the best. It won't be in the conversations as, is this one of the best defensive back groups in the NFL? It won't be that. Like how we have Jaden Daniels, like how we have Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, how we potentially have like Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel as a wide receiver duo. You know, maybe the defensive back group won't be in debates for like top of their position group like those other positions that we have on the team. But hey, it's solid, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other teams have worse defensive back groups, especially as of now before the draft. We'll see what happens after the draft. And hey, we could do a lot worse. I mean, yeah, it may not be a huge upgrade over what we had last year, but one, you can't fix everything in one offseason, y'all. People really don't realize how much Jaden Daniels truly carried this team and how many holes we had on that roster last year. And the way that y'all were hoping for the Commanders to improve the cornerback room in free agency, they literally made those level of improvements, because I know a lot of people wanted Travarius Ward at corner, Javon Holland at safety and things like that, Talanoa Hufanga. But the way that y'all wanted them to address the cornerback room, they literally did that at left tackle, and at the very least, what you could call Deebo Samuel a weapon. Maybe not necessarily specifically a wide receiver, but Jaden Daniels got a really good weapon, and we also acquired one of the best left tackles in football. Again, arguably, by far, I feel like the best left tackle we've had since Trent Williams. And both of them happen to come from trades, and I promise you, with the moves that we've made, we are about to go from the league's worst run defense to maybe even in the top 10. We fixed a lot of our major problems already, and we still haven't even gotten to the draft. And if Jaden Daniels could take that 2024 roster that had Benjamin St-Juste and Michael Davis playing significant minutes in the cornerback room to an NFC Championship game, imagine what he could do with this roster, which is 100% better top to bottom than last year's team. I feel like the only way that we've even taken somewhat of a step back is pass rush right now, and we're going to talk about that towards the end of the video when we dive into some of the 2024 Commanders free agents that are still out there that we may want to prioritize bringing back even after all of the re-signings that we've already done. Because again, the only way that we've gotten worse from 2024 going into this 2025 season so far, again, the draft hasn't even happened, is pass rush. Every other way, we've either stayed the exact same at worst, or we've gotten slightly better, much better, or drastically better, which I feel like offensive line and the receiver room, I would argue, is probably drastically better. But and the run defense amongst the defensive line, and even as a whole defense with Will Harris and Jonathan Jones not being afraid to hit people and lay them on their backs, our run defense has improved mightily as well. And then point number two, be happy that we upgraded our cornerback room to the point that St-Juste and Michael Davis are officially gone. Yeah, maybe our ceiling didn't necessarily get much higher, even though I do expect a fully healthy and having an entire offseason learning the defense version of Marshawn Lattimore to be better than what he was last year. But at the very least, our floor and depth is way better than what it was last year. From top to bottom, our cornerback group is easily better than what it was last year. Again, I know a lot of us wanted to get a higher ceiling. We wanted to go for like a true dominant starter like a Travarius Ward, but at the very least, the bottom end of our cornerback group is far improved from the bottom end that we had last year. We are now at least 4 deep at corner this year, when last year, before we traded for Marshawn Lattimore, many would argue, even after we traded for Marshawn Lattimore, that we were only 2 deep at corner last year, with Sanderstill and Noah Igbinoghene being our only true consistent corners that we had out there. Now we potentially have like 4, and at the very least we improved significantly. And we'll see if they can find like a Laramie Tunsil level of upgrade in the cornerback group somehow in the draft. Maybe, I don't think it's likely, but maybe there's there, because there's a lot of talent in the draft, especially cornerback wise. Like there's some guys that are easy first round talents, but they've suffered injuries, and some people may not take that risk in the first round, but I could see somebody getting a guy like Siobhan Revel maybe in the second round, and he turned into a Pro Bowler later. But that's another reason why having a cornerback group like this one is perfect. This will be the perfect environment for a Siobhan Revel to go to with his ridiculous talent. He has Pro Bowl corner written all over him. It just may not necessarily be his rookie season, maybe not even sophomore season, and we have the type of roster to where we can compete and win right now, and we wouldn't need to depend on a Siobhan Revel to contribute immediately and to step up big time for us as a rookie. But again, who's going to be available at 29 that we can get and we know for a fact can start at corner over, I guess, either Noah Igbinoghene or Jonathan Jones, whoever's going to be the third corner on the field, because we already know Sanverstill and Marshawn Lattimore, whichever corner spots Mike Sanverstill ends up playing and starting that corner slot or outside. We know that those are the two starters. Who will be the third? We'll see. But, and then again, we also have to prioritize bigger needs. Like, I feel like edge rusher, running back, especially like a home run hitting running back, or even safety are arguably bigger needs. We'll see though. But at the very least, we are going from St. Juice and Michael Davis getting minutes to Jonathan Jones and a potential draft pick with some actual real talent in this cornerback group. I'm happy. I feel like at the very least we have a nice floor to work with. And then now, speaking of the advanced stats of Noah Igbinoghene that I mentioned earlier, look on the screen right now. This was back on December 28th where Noah Igbinoghene was in the likes of Patrick Surtain and Brandon Jones, Derwin James, Garrett Wilson's, Deshaun Elliott, and then Noah Igbinoghene was 6th in least reception yards allowed with a minimum of 45 targets as nearest defender, with Julian Love, Kyle Hamilton, Kobe Bryant, and Cooper DeJean, who everybody's hyping up, are ranked behind him. How about this next graphic where we're looking at the x-axis, yards allowed per snap, and then the y-axis, passer rating allowed. When you really zoom in, that boy Noah Igbinoghene is in the same exact space as a Quinyon Mitchell and a Jordan Lewis. Come on, bro. Like, that's the level of like where he's at. He's better than Patrick Surtain at both in these advanced stats. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm telling you, y'all are really sleeping Noah Igbinoghene. And then how about this graphic as well? When we're looking at advanced coverage grade and grade percentile, Noah Igbinoghene was 3rd behind only Trent McDuffie and Patrick Surtain, and ahead of Marlon Humphrey and Jalen Johnson at a certain point last year. And just to let you know, this was like tweeted in January, so this is probably after the season ended type of thing. So Noah Igbinoghene, I'm not saying he's literally in the company of these guys or better than these guys or anything like that, but you should be a little bit happier that we re-signed Noah Igbinoghene, because at the very least, the advanced stats show that he's producing at similar levels as a lot of these elite corners in the NFL right now. And then also, shouts out to All Galdi. He brings up a good point. He said it all starts with Marshawn Lattimore being healthy and better than he was for the Commanders last season. I agree. That is a very big part as to why I feel like this cornerback group will be way better than last year. Adding Jonathan Jones to increase the floor in the back end of the cornerback group, bring it back Noah Igbinoghene, keep the whole thing down like he did last year. And then Marshawn Lattimore improving, we'll see about the draft. And then he also says, but at a top 4 at cornerback of Lattimore, Mike Sanverstill, Jonathan Jones, and Noah Igbinoghene in year 2 under a Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. scheme does have promise. Like, this is going to be, outside of Jonathan Jones, their second year of learning this defense. Technically, Marshawn Lattimore's first real year of learning the defense. We can only expect for them to be even better than they were last year, even outside of Jonathan Jones and a potential draft pick rookie. Now, before we move on to the second half of this video, y'all already know, man, this show is provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you're looking for a new sportsbook, it should be BetUS for sure. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast, because I know I do. And right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150. And they have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, so it's really like, why not? Now let's take a look at some bets that we can get into directly through their website, especially some Commanders related bets that we can have some fun with. Well, how are y'all feeling about Jaden Daniels' chances of winning MVP next year? I would say with the addition of Deebo Samuel, and then you acquired via trade one of the best left tackles in all of football, so now the entire offensive line will be way better. And then maybe we go get one of those Ohio State running backs in the draft. Maybe I highly doubt Amari and Hampton, but I'm saying that this offense will be way better around Jaden Daniels than it was last year. And he already got some 4th and 5th place votes for MVP last year. And he would have been even better than that if he never sustained that rib injury that had him having like a little struggle in the middle of the season. So if you feel like Jaden Daniels can actually end up winning MVP right now, the odds are plus 1,000 as of right now. And again, you won't know until like 2026, of course, but at those plus 1,000 odds, if you put $100 on that right now, you could win $1,000 by the time Jaden Daniels is officially awarded and announced as the league's MVP. If you truly believe he could do that, then that is a good bet to make. But of course, I'm always going to scream at y'all to please make sure y'all gamble responsibly, man. I mean, it would be nice if we can go get like an Elijah Moore as a speedy wide receiver. I feel like that would make me even more likely to go in this bet. But then again, please make sure you gamble responsibly. And before we get to the second half of this video, again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Now let's get to the second half of this video, man. How about Trent Scott? I know he may not necessarily be the most exciting re-signing, but he matters. The Washington Commanders have reportedly re-signed offensive lineman Trent Scott, and it's crazy that we're calling him offensive lineman now instead of just a straight-up tackle, because we saw when he came into that Detroit Lions game after Samuel Cosmi got hurt that he can play some guard now. He was terrible at tackle all throughout the offseason. Maybe guard was always his calling, even though he barely ever played in his NFL career. But shouts out to Ben Standig for pointing out the fact that he was the tackle, technically by trade, but he filled in at right guard in the playoffs following Samuel Cosmi's injury, like I just mentioned. And he's presumably back as like an offensive tackle 4, even though Cornelius Lucas is gone, so who's above him on the depth chart? But then again, I guess he's probably considering Wiley, Tunsil, and Brandon Coleman as a tackle. I'm already viewing Brandon Coleman as a Pro Bowl, potentially all-pro starting left guard. So I'm not counting him as that. But maybe Trent Scott is your backup swing tackle. I hope not, though, because he was way better at guard in that Lions game than he ever was at tackle by far. And also remember, he was the one that caught that Jaden Daniels touchdown pass against the Bengals. Like, is this technically your wide receiver too? Like, I know people are like, well, Deebo Samuel's a great weapon, but we need a true wide receiver too. Is it Trent Scott? I mean, of course I'm joking, but it's still crazy to be that Trent Scott was the recipient of Jaden Daniels' first ever career passing touchdown. A tackle, a backup tackle at that. So remember that, just in case you ever end up on Jeopardy or something like that. Just remember that Trent Scott was Jaden Daniels' first passing touchdown receiver. But of course, this is more offensive line depth. I could definitely see them, maybe if we have an injury to guard, you put Trent Scott in. I trust him way more than Michael Dieter. Michael Dieter, the games that he had to come in last year, was not good at all. For somehow, when Trent Scott came in to replace Samuel Cosmi in that Lions game, he was like good. Dare I say, like good. I was shocked. I was like, oh man, I don't know what we gonna do. And then Trent Scott held it down, man. So when we re-signed Michael Dieter, I mean, I already talked about that in the video, and I was like, I was cautious. I was a little concerned. I was like, why are we bringing back Michael Dieter if Trent Scott, who was terrible at tackle, and only played with, didn't he only play like 3 interior offensive line snaps since 2021 before last year, where he had to step in at guard in that Lions game? And somehow he still came in and switched from tackle to guard for us when Cosmi got hurt in that divisional round versus the Lions, and played better than Michael Dieter ever played for us when he came into the games for us in 2024. I mean, maybe that's just a combination of both Dieter not being good and Trent Scott probably being a quality backup guard somehow. I never would have predicted it if you would have asked me this time last year. Even in training camp, we had that joint practice with the Jets, and even the backup edge rushers were beating them bad. I don't know why he's better at guard, and at the same time, I don't know why we didn't move him to guard sooner. If he was that good at it, I don't know. But either way, I'm happy to have him back. Long story short, shouts out to Scott Jennings of Hogshaven for pointing out the fact that he is a backup offensive tackle who can also play guard and technically wide receiver when needed. Scott filled in at guard last year and could be needed there again this season as the line makes changes due to injuries and free agency, because we still have Samuel Cosby hurt, just got ACL surgery earlier this calendar year, less than 3 months ago. Who knows if he's even ready for week 1. Cornelius Lucas has been Washington's swing tackle, but he left in free agency. Scott played in all 17 regular season games and even started one of them, but usually when he played, he was coming in as like a third tackle. Like that Bengals game, he came in to literally catch a pass. It's not like we just had our offensive line was shuffled that much to where he was playing in all 17 games. Like, it wasn't that, but still, man, I'm happy to have him. Is he like a Cornelius Lucas replacement? Not necessarily. I feel like we're still looking for that, in my personal opinion, because again, to me, the starting offensive line is Laramie Tunsil left tackle, Brandon Coleman left guard, Tyler Biotish starting center, and then your starting right guard is of course Samuel Cosmi when healthy, but until then, I'm cool with Nick Allegretti starting at right guard for us. He started a left guard for us all season last year, and he wasn't like great, but he also wasn't bad. He was solid. And then your starting right tackle is Andrew Wiley, and that's perfectly fine with me for an offensive line. You had a top 12 offensive line without a top 3 tackle and Laramie Tunsil added to the mix last year, and now that he's added, you're gonna probably have like a top 5, at worst top 8 offensive line with that offensive line I just gave you by example. So, you know, I based off of what I saw from Trent Scott being better at guard than tackle, he's a good backup guard. Nick Allegretti is a good backup guard. I don't like Michael Dieter as a backup center or guard, but they re-signed him. We'll see if he even makes the team. We're still looking for a backup like swing tackle or Cornelius Lucas replacement. I don't know who that's going to be just yet, but hey, man, maybe like a 6th or a 7th round draft pick. We'll see. Now, moving on, we also re-signed Nick Bellore. It was reported that linebacker / special teamer Nick Bellore returned to the Commanders on a 2-year deal. We gave him a 1-year prove-it deal last year, and then off of him being so good at special teams, even though we already have Tyler Owens and Jeremy Reeves who are great at it as well, we'll talk about them very soon, but we decided after that 1 year that we gave him, let's sign him to 2 more. And Bellore led the team in special teams tackles and played a significant role on one of the best special team units in the entire NFL. Shouts out to Larry Izzo, but also shouts out to all of the guys that contributed. Again, now we officially have the dominant special teams coverage trio of Tyler Owens, Jeremy Reeves, and Nick Bellore back for at least the 2025 season. Arguably the best trio of special teams coverage guys in the NFL, I would argue. Rookie Tyler Owens required double teams when healthy on special teams. Jeremy Reeves is an all-pro special teamer for a reason. It says it all pro Revo. And then you have multiple Pro Bowl earning Nick Bellore, who we just re-signed, who we're talking about right now. That's who the main discussion is. Shouts out to Sam 48 for pointing out the fact that the Bellore, he is 36. He'll be 36 in May. He's 35 right now. He'll be 36 before the season technically starts. But he was a special teams ace. Again, he tied for second in special team tackles out of the entire league. He was first on our team, but he was second out of the entire league, even though he didn't even sign with the Commanders until week 1. He wasn't even here during training camp and stuff like that. That's why that 1-year prove-it deal, he went out there and proved it. Hey, you earned yourself a 2-year deal, man. It's probably not very expensive because he is a special teamer. We don't ever expect him to ever play linebacker for us, but he's elite at what he does. It's special teams, but he's still elite at it. And people just don't realize how important this trio is to our team until maybe one day we won't have them years from now. I mean, we are spoiled when it comes to special teams coverage, y'all. We may be struggling at kicker, but at the very least, we don't have to worry about special teams coverage between our really good punter and Tress Way, who we brought back. I still got to do that video, and our elite gunners. Some teams are still looking for one special teams ace. The Commanders have 3 of them in Tyler Owens, Jeremy Reeves, and recently re-signed Nick Bellore. And that's going to be big for the weekly field position battles and making sure that our defense is in as many favorable situations as often as possible, which will also inadvertently and indirectly help Jaden Daniels in this offense as well. So it matters, man. This is not something you could just completely gloss over and ignore on the team, and I'm happy that we brought Nick Bellore back. Also, shouts out to Jamal, my boy, let Maul tell it, because he brings up a good point. He thinks that Washington got a solid wide receiver, offensive line, and cornerback depth after the re-signings on March 13th, technically yesterday. Not a Dieter fan, neither am I, but they love the guy. for some reason. I don't think there's a big plan with KJ Osborne, but seems both sides value the time he spent here, and maybe a full offseason with the team might be motivation for KJ Osborne to perform better. I agree with all of that. Now, I want to dive into some of the current Commanders free agents that are still available, that are from that 2024 team, that have yet to be re-signed by us or signed elsewhere for another team. You still have Cleveland Farrell. I'm good. Michael Davis, super good. Jamison Crowder, I mean, maybe we already have like 5-6 wide receivers at this point, but maybe he can come compete for maybe a starting punt return job, but they're probably looking for a younger guy to do that potentially. Then you have Jeff Driscoll, maybe your third quarterback, even though like Sam Hartman technically roster-wise is your third quarterback, but Jeff Driscoll is more likely, like more ready to play if you had to be, because he was our emergency third quarterback all season, right behind Marcus Mariota. Maybe they'll bring him back for extremely cheap at some point. Then you have Jalen Holmes, we'll see. Remember, Austin Seibert was our starting kicker. Even though Zane Gonzalez was within a phone call's reach, they still preferred to have Austin Seibert starting for us, and then they brought Zane Gonzalez only after Austin Seibert got hurt. And so I'm surprised that they brought back Zane Gonzalez but didn't bring back Austin Seibert yet. I don't know what necessarily changed yet, but it is what it is. And then lastly, you have Dante Fowler. And I feel like Dante Fowler is by far our biggest priority. Out of that entire list I just read to you, Dante Fowler is by far the biggest priority that we need to focus on bringing back. And with the fact that he hasn't signed anywhere else yet, I mean, we're going on to Friday now. Maybe his market isn't as hot as he thought it would be. So maybe he'll humble himself, maybe even apologize for that Twitter rant and just re-sign with your best pal and Dan Quinn and just go and get us another 10-digit sack, a 10-sack, double-digit sack season this upcoming season, man. Go do that for us one good time, man. Just one more time, man. Give us another year to stall on getting an elite edge rushing, like pass rusher type of thing. And this time, hey, you won't have to play on first and second downs. I can tell you that. I mean, he'll only have to come in on obvious passing downs like third and long, like the original plan was supposed to be last year before we had all of those injuries, or just pure bad play from the rest of the edge group, which forced Fowler to have to play way more than he was supposed to, and having this like stop the run and set the edge. That's not what he does. He's a situational pass rusher, like basically an older Azeez Ojulari, who's a Georgia Bulldog. I would like to bring him in if we don't bring in Dante Fowler. But my point is, he should have never have been on the field as much as he was last year. And I kind of feel him in a way to where, like, man, y'all had me doing way more than y'all were paying me to do. And so at the very least, you could gotta give me a little bit of like a thank you with a little bit of money on top, or to add to the extra, you know, to the next contract you give me or something like that. But hey, man, we can't pay you for what you did. We got to pay you for what we think you'll do. And with all of these defensive linemen and edge rushers we've signed, and how dominant I feel like we'll be against stopping the run, we're going to go from the league's worst run defense to one of the best in the NFL just based off of the defensive linemen we've signed alone. And so Dante Fowler, I mean, you'll literally only be on the field when it's like obvious the other team is passing the ball. So you're going to play way less snaps, and that's why the Commanders probably aren't offering you the money that you're expecting to get. But hey, man, I still hope we find a way to mutually agree on some type of deal, man. Please, we need pass rushing bad. Again, like I said earlier, I feel like the only way that we've gotten worse going from 2024 to 2025 is pass rush. That's literally it. And every other way, I feel like we've literally gotten better, or at the very least are the exact same. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Of course, please make sure you leave whatever comments you have, any opinions you have in the comment section below, especially how do you feel about the re-signing of Noah Igbinoghene? How do you feel about the re-signing of Trent Scott, Nick Bellore? Are you as serious about potentially bringing back Dante Fowler as I am? Do you agree with me when I say that the only way we haven't improved on this team is pass rush going from last year to this year? Do you agree with me on that? Let me know how you feel about every opinion that I had in this video, and let me know why you agree or disagree. Of course, bring stats, all of that, man. Am I hyping up Noah Igbinoghene too much? Let me know how y'all feel about all of that. Of course, leave a like on the way out, and also remember this video was sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. If you don't do nothing else, please make sure you gamble responsibly. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Leave a like on the way out. I'm out.